everyone, Dr. Laura Neville here. I wanted to tell you today a little bit about my background and my story, because if you have ever heard the story of somebody in the alternative health world, you know that they've got a really interesting personal story, what drove them into this type of medicine, because believe me, it's not the easy path. Definitely, I think we have to work in this field a lot harder than some of our colleagues, and the pay is not nearly as good. So let me elucidate for you. I just want to give you my story because personally I think it's interesting. Hopefully you do too, but it shows you some of the hormone testing that I do in clinical practice, and it's pretty cool to just see that for yourself. So I'm actually going to use myself as a case example and show you my before and after for hormone testing. So here's the deal. When I was in my 20s, probably early 20s, I was having a lot of health issues and didn't really know where to turn, and I felt super frustrated. I felt like there were all these things that I was dealing with that nobody really had answers for. So I was having a ton of acne. I am type 1 diabetic, so I was having, pretty severe blood sugar swings. I was a little overweight. I was super moody. I was suffering from anxiety and sometimes depression. And so there's just a lot that I was frustrated with, and I wanted like a total overhaul. I wanted something different, something that I wasn't getting from the conventional system. And believe me, I grew up in the conventional system. I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when I was 7, and so there are so many doctor visits that you need to do, everything from head to toe. You got to get your eyes checked, your kidneys checked, your hemoglobin A1C, you've got to go to the endocrinologist, you've got to go to the dentist a lot more, you've got to go to your primary care visits a lot more than the average person. So I was ingrained in this system and still really suffering. So I sought the care of a naturopathic doctor. I was living in Southern California at the time, and that basically changed my life. And I'm not going to say I transformed overnight, but she did give me some absolutely amazing things to start with, things that I was really looking for. So it's probably no surprise that somehow I made my way to this amazing naturopathic doctor. And I decided, because she benefited, I benefited from her treatment approach so much that I just became basically obsessed. I wanted to do what she did. I wanted to become a naturopathic doctor, and I wanted to help other people because I felt like it just absolutely opened my eyes to what was possible. And it's like I had that innate feeling that more was possible. I just couldn't quite figure out what that was, So here's the deal. I came to her, and I was having so many health issues, but the one thing that bothered me the most was the acne. Vanity, we all have that a little bit. So she said, hey, let's do some hormone testing. And I was like, sure, I don't know, whatever you think. Like, I will do whatever it takes to get this acne to go away. So she did a hormone test on me. I have the results of that I'm going to show you. So this is when I was 25 years old. Because of this test, she found out that I had basically some mild insulin resistance going on. So insulin resistance is the very start of basically metabolic issues and can lead into type 2 diabetes on the kind of other end of the spectrum. If that goes on for long enough, that's kind of the spectrum that happens. Now, let me tell you, having type 1 diabetes and like I would say early type 2 diabetes, that is not a good combination. It's really, really bad for the body. Either one of those is horrible. Combine the two, it's catastrophic. So I unknowingly was dealing with huge health issues, but thinking that, it was really the acne that bothered me at the time. However, it was my window in to see a bigger world. So she did the hormone test, told me, hey, let's actually have you lower your carbohydrate load. Anytime you eat carbohydrates, why don't you combine that with a protein or a fat? So say you eat an apple, put peanut butter on it, right? You guys, at the time, this was mind-blowing to me. I grew up with the American Diabetes Association. They recommended a very low-fat diet, high carbohydrate diet, because a lot of type 1 diabetics have elevated cholesterol. And I promise you, that is a disaster of a way to eat for a type 1 diabetic. Not having enough fat or protein to slow carbohydrate absorption leaves you in absolute roller coaster blood sugar swings. And that was exactly what was happening to me. And that, you guys, will lead to too much carbohydrate in the diet leads to insulin resistance. Insulin resistance causes androgens, so basically hormones that we commonly associate with males, so testosterone, and there's also a hormone called DHEA, will increase. When that happens, that can cause acne, hair growth in places you don't want it, and even loss of hair on the head. So if you heard the term PCOS, this is often a type of this type of issue. So once I made a bunch of changes, and again, this didn't happen overnight, but it got me on the right path, completely changed my life. Type 1 diabetes became much easier to manage. Acne went away, lost weight easily and effortlessly. Mood stuff totally evened out. Energy increased. There was so much to it. And I, as you can see, really got excited about that and decided that's, I wanted to basically be her. And so I dedicated the next many, many years to becoming a naturopathic doctor, going to medical school. I ended up working for a company outside after I graduated, and they did hormone testing. And this was a really unique opportunity for me. It was a really great job. I actually am still with this company today. And they offered to do some hormone testing. And so I figured, a few years into that career, like, I should probably do my own testing since I know so much about it now. It'd be interesting to see. So I went into the system to look for that hormone report that I knew I had sent in not so long ago. And I found my name in the system from 2008. And this was probably 2016 when I was looking for my, current report. And I thought, well, that's weird. Somebody by the same name as me, maybe. I clicked on that. That was my hormone test from 2008 with that physician when I was living in Southern California. Absolutely full circle moment. I had no clue. I didn't remember what test that was. That was the test that changed my entire life, my entire career, my health. Who knows if I would even be here by now if I had kept going down that route. So absolutely just, I still, you guys, I have chills. Like, I still get the chills when I think about how I felt at that moment when I saw my name in the system, because it was the very same test. And now I'm sitting here, as a naturopathic physician looking at these test results for other people, and it was an absolute full circle moment. I don't know if you've ever had one of those moments where you just get the chills because you're like, I am doing what I'm meant to be doing. Like, this is a journey. This was a full story, and I get to heal for my own stuff, and now I get to help other people. Like, it was amazing. So I'm going to show you my before and after hormone results so that you can see what this looks like. So give me a second here. I'm going to pull it up on the computer and show you. Okay, so this is my test. You can see my name there. I was 25 at the time of this test. This was taken in July of 2008. So I want to show you what this test reveals. So at the time, remember, I was dealing with a lot. I was dealing with acne. Mostly that was my main complaint. So this number is your main type of estrogen in the body. This one is there's 3 types of estrogen in the human body. This is the main type. Sorry, I'm wiggling around here. And estriol is a weaker form of estrogen. The one below that is progesterone. Progesterone balances estrogen. And so the company here gives you what's called the PG to E2 ratio. How much progesterone do you have in comparison to estrogen? This tells you when it's low that you have what's commonly referred to as estrogen dominance. Also can be referred to as progesterone insufficiency. They're basically the same thing. And then you can see the testosterone level here. I'm going to show you here the reference range goes from 5.9 to 49. That's what that says right now. So I was really tippy top, almost high at 48.4, right? This is my testosterone level. This is for females, what it should be. When you see testosterone, that's what we call upper range or even elevated. So this is within range, low, and high. This number, if that were high, and even where it's at now, it's almost high. that means that there's a problem with blood sugar. And when you have blood sugar problems that stand for quite a long time, and you're eating too much carbohydrate, that can cause insulin resistance. So that's basically what I was dealing with. And this doctor kind of knew, she had made a guess, an educated guess, that this was going to be a problem. And that's exactly what we're seeing here on the test result. The DHEA, this is another, it's almost like a little buddy to testosterone. It's testosterone's little buddy. It acts very much the same way, but it comes from the adrenal glands, whereas these hormones mostly come from the ovaries. So this one, again, testosterone's buddy. Look, that's actually outright high. 300 is the max of what it should be for a female. So not only do I have elevated or upper range testosterone, I also have elevated DHEA. This is very classic for what we consider to be PCOS. In a young person, it's metabolic problems, it's blood sugar problems, it's mild insulin resistance, okay? You can also see that the estrogen level is undetectable. So the lab assay can't even read less than 1, and mine was less than 1. My progesterone was also low. So you guys, what this means is that, so the majority of those sex hormones come from the ovaries. This means that even though I was menstruating, I wasn't ovulating. And the vast majority of progesterone in the body comes from this tissue that is created after an egg is released each month. So this wasn't happening for me. I wasn't ovulating because I was actually pretty sick. And I had too much carbohydrate that was overwhelming the liver, causing insulin resistance, and that can lead to what we call anovulatory cycles. So meaning you're having a menstrual cycle, but you're not ovulating. And you may not be aware of this unless you do this type of testing and you see, especially the low progesterone, because that's telling you the ovaries can't even produce that amount. So that can also cause low estrogen. So for me, you're seeing just a slam dunk. This is a PCOS type picture. That's what that is. Okay. The cortisol levels you can see here, we're doing what's called a diurnal cortisol pattern. So I think the graph is the easiest to understand. You typically want cortisol to be in this dark green area on the graph, highest when you first wake up in the morning, gradually dropping off by noon, gradually dropping off in the evening, and lowest by night. So you imagine if you had a little marble right here and you let that marble slide down, you want it to have a nice slide down its little slide. So here's the deal. The pattern is actually really nice. Mine is highest in the morning, gradually drops off, and then drops off again. However, you can see it's kind of blunted overall. We really want it in that dark green area. So that means there's basically been a stress on the body, and I don't want to go too much into this. Basically, the body and the mind can interpret anything as a stressor, right? So that could be blood sugar elevations, that's a stress on the body. Could be psychosocial stressors. It could be just mental, emotional stuff going on. Everyone knows what kind of stress means on the whole, but remember, there's basically like being too cold, being too hot. All of those can contribute to stress on the body. And some people are much more sensitive to stress than others. So that's really what this is showing us. So basically, it's just overall blunted. So it's not ideal. Okay. So that was the test that changed my life. She said, hey, let's lower your carbohydrate load. Any carbs that you do eat, make sure you add protein and fat to slow the absorption. And we did some vitamins and nutrients, got me on some omega-3s. This helped to support ovulation and to actually have my body start doing that again, okay? So once all of that started to happen, took a while. Again, didn't happen overnight. Acne, totally gone. Energy improved. Mood swings improved. Weight gain, no longer. I lost weight, okay? So I go to naturopathic school. I graduate. I'm working for this company. I run my own test. Here we go. Here's this one. I'm doing much better at this point, by the way. Much, much better. So this is November of 2016. Oops, I still have this up here. So let me see if I can get rid of this. There we go. Okay, so this is almost 10 years later, right? Hormone picture looks very different. So this one looks a little different from the first one. We did all 3 different types of estrogen we tested. So remember the last one, we just tested this one and it was less than 1, and now it's at 3.13. So at the time the reference range was right here, so that looks like a really good number for estrogen. I was actually supplementing with estriol at the time. There were some studies about estriol decreasing wrinkles. So I wanted to see if that actually worked. You can see my vanity in these hormone tests, right? So don't be surprised that number is actually high, but that's because I was supplementing too much, and the lab doesn't actually have it in the supplementation range, which is 67 to 708. I actually would have fallen in there, but normally human physiology is less than 66, so that's why that looks high. This lab also gives what's called the estrogen quotient. So I don't want to go too much into this, but this is derived from the work of Dr. Henry Lemon, where he, in the 1960s and 70s, had a very large clinical practice, and he had a lot of patients with breast cancer. He noticed that their estriol level was lower than his patients without breast cancer. So he came up with this estrogen quotient, basically how much estriol, the weakest form of estrogen, do you have in comparison to the more what we call proliferative estrogen, so the growth effect of E1 and E2. So it's just a way to look at breast risk. Progesterone, do you guys remember the last test was less than 102, sorry, and it was low. So now it's at 325. That is a really awesome progesterone level. That means that robust ovulation is happening. And that means that the body now has enough progesterone to balance estrogen. And that's very protective to bone health, to brain health, to cardiovascular health, the heart, and to the nervous system. It helps women sleep. It helps them to maintain a normal body weight. So there's a lot that goes into having good progesterone. You definitely want that. The testosterone level, do you guys remember before? It was at 48.4 and it's now dropped all the way to 25. So you can tell I'm doing a much better job here at controlling blood sugar, and I don't have insulin resistance anymore. It's not causing the ovaries to overproduce testosterone. DHEA level, before 356.6, now is at 228. So it is no longer elevated, totally normal and healthy DHEA level. Okay, cortisol. We've got a little bit of a different pattern here, and I'm going to chop this up to medical school because that was really intense. Basically, you can see my morning cortisol actually improved, but I sharply drop off and kind of flatline, and that's basically from burnout from school and a lot of stress and that. So that's the one thing that didn't improve, not surprisingly, but I thought that you would enjoy seeing those before and after results. I get to pick on myself because I think it's a really good example of what can happen, and you get the background story so you understand what those numbers mean, and you hear, you know, what I was dealing with at the time and what a drastic improvement I've made. All right, everyone, so I hope you found that interesting. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I'd be happy to answer some of your questions. Remember, I don't give direct medical advice, so please don't ask specific questions about your health, but you can ask general questions. You can ask me about that lab testing and all of that. All right, take care.